Hi, I'm Martin and welcome to Guided by Martin, where you get everything you need to know about how to use psychedelics for personal healing and growth. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to microdose to remove stress, anxiety, depression, get rid of bad habits and addictions. Before you start watching the Masterclass, I recommend that you download the slides from the Masterclass. This way you can follow the slides and see the different dosages. Alright, let's dive in.
Alright, welcome everybody. I'm Martin, I'm going to be your host today for this Microdosing Masterclass. Before we begin, can I just ask you to stand up for a little bit? Just stand up and look to the body next to you. Just look to the body next to you and you can give them a high five and a hug. Alright, so good to see you here. Thank you guys. Alright, sit down. Thank you very much. I'm super grateful to see you all here for this Microdosing Masterclass. We're going to be together for the next hour or so to figure out how can we use microdosing to boost our performance, our productivity, our energy, our focus, our moods, our relationships. There's so many things we can use microdosing for. Let's dive in. So a little bit about me. I'm an ex-elite kickboxing athlete. I used to be on a national team in Denmark for a few years until I had a really bad concussion. That's really what got me started on this crazy journey, because I couldn't do anything for a month. And I realized, oh, what else? I was like, I could just sit and go for walks. And I realized there's another layer to life than what we're in the rat race. We're always doing. And we don't spend so much time just, what else is there? Are there other things? And I can just see and feel and hear with my senses. I have a bachelor in sports science. That's where the scientific part comes in. I'm a certified coach, yoga, breathwork instructor, and also, yeah, that's more or less it. And I've been a psychedelic guide and retreat leader for the past 4 years, and microdoser for now 5 years. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I found during my life, like I was not so super lucky with, like, I feel today I'm lucky, but I was growing up in an environment that was very toxic. My father, he's chronically ill, and he has a really bad temper. And I was always walking around like seeing, okay, how can I behave? So I learned to become very empathic in my environment. And also I saw the actions he was taking, the kind of life that he is now living, like his habits, his daily choices, the things that he is actually now living a not so good life. He's not having energy, he's not living his optimal health. And I wanted to do the opposite of him. So our parents can be great teachers, both for the good and also for the bad. So that put me on this trajectory to find tools and methods that can help people, that can boost our well-being, that can boost our health, that can boost our happiness. And microdosing is just one of those tools that makes you aware of the areas where you can do the same. So actually it's a facilitator to make lasting changes in your life. All right. So what we're going to come through now is we're going to go through what is microdosing, who's microdosing for and who's microdosing not for, what are the risks of microdosing and how can you avoid them. Then we're going to go to step 1, which is setting your intention and also baseline. Then we're going to how to find the right medicine, and that depends on your intention, but also depends on where you are in the world. Then step 3 is to figure out how much you should take and how often you should take it. So this is your protocol. And then step 4 is to prepare your microdoses. So it's like, how do you turn LSD or mushrooms into smaller doses that you can then take on a regular basis. And then step 5 is microdose. Then we begin. And then I will finish off with some next steps, recommendations, and Q&A. So this is the godfather of microdosing, Dr. James Fadiman. He's also the author of the Psychedelic Explorer's Guide. And he says, microdosing appears to improve everything that we do, just a little bit. So that's really what microdosing does. It enhances your life just a little bit, just enough to, like, we're like 50% robot, or we're robot, and we're also this ability to make an effort to be aware of our life. And when we are microdosing, we go a little bit less robot and a little bit more present, a little bit more aware in our daily activities. So what is microdosing? Microdosing is taking subperceptual doses of psychedelics such as LSD or psilocybin mushrooms or truffles on a regular basis for boosting your energy, your focus, your creativity, or enhancing your relationships. So this is just some of the things you can use microdosing for. So macrodosing, on the other hand, is where you take larger doses of psychedelics. You don't do that so often, and you need much more preparation and integration to do that in a safe way. Microdosing is something where you can dip your toes in the psychedelic waters without losing control. You will maintain full control while you microdose. You're not going to start, the walls are not going to start breathing, and you're not going to see things that are not there. You're very much in control. It just enhances everything that you're doing. So what does a microdosing day look like? So today I microdosed. Let me see, actually I had a really good example. So a microdosing day, for a really good microdosing day for me, yeah, let's take today. So today I microdosed this morning, and today I was not really sure if I'm going to microdose. So I took a little while, I journaled a little bit, and just meditated for 5 minutes. And then I took my microdose with the intention of, right now my focus is to eat less. I have a tendency to overeat when I'm sitting, and this microdosing really helps you with that. So I'm practicing taking smaller plates, and then when I'm eating on the plate, I push it away. So today, when I had my first meal, like when you microdose, it just feels really good. Like it feels like you've been, you just won the lottery, or it's one of those days where, yeah, or it's one of those days, you know, like it's just a spring morning, and all the flowers are coming out. Or you're traveling. When you go traveling, that sense of wonder and excitement you have when you go out new places. This is how it feels to microdose. So today, for me, I started microdosing in the morning. I did some yoga and some breath work, and it just helped me to go much deeper and really put me in a very good state. Then I went into working, and I had 3 or 4 sessions of like 1.5 hours of just very focused work. Right now I'm creating a microdosing course, so that really helped me just to stay focused and doing the things that I set out to do. And then I'm right here right now with you, still on my microdose that I took this morning. Welcome, bro. And I just feel high energy, I feel connected, I feel present, and I'm just, yeah, grateful. When I look back on this day, most likely I will say this was just a really good day. And my dose is not strong enough, so I don't have hallucinations, I don't have visual distortions. I'm here right now, and I'm able to focus and be present. Good. So who's microdosing for? Microdosing is for people who's looking for personal and professional development, people that are looking for improving their energy, their focus, their motivation, or overcoming procrastination. Like many times, especially if you're entrepreneurs or doing creative work, like most of you guys are as nomads, then it's easy to hit procrastination, or because it's difficult. But when you're microdosing, it's much easier to power through and focus on the things that really matters. Also, it helps you to enhance and reawaken creativity. One of the things we often experience when we're creative is we judge ourselves. We're like, this is not good enough. I could do this much better. But when you're microdosing, it's like more things come through the needle, the eye of the needle, and you have much more things coming out, which is really good for being creative and putting things out in the world. It's also for people that are looking for emotional, mental, and physical well-being. It boosts those areas. Like when you have more energy, you feel more connected to yourself, naturally you're going to start feeling better. It also helps you to improve your relationships because it makes you more aware of your emotions and how you're feeling. It makes you more aware of how other people are feeling, and you're also easier to speak your mind, how you truly feel, so you're easier to be authentic in your social situations and relations. It helps you to let go of bad habits and addictions. Like I told you right now, for me, when I started microdosing 5 years ago, I was really addicted to caffeine. I was having 2 free cups a day plus 2 pre-workouts a day. So I was getting like 400 or 500 milligrams of caffeine. That's quite a lot. But when I started microdosing, I realized, oh, actually, I don't need it. And now I'm microdosing caffeine, like I'm microdosing psychedelics. So it's really helpful to become aware of the addictions that we have and then starting to change them. And then you can have relief from anxiety, stress, depression. Because when you take a microdose, it makes you more present. It helps you to stay focused on what you're doing right now. It helps you to just be in the present moment. I was helping this girl that I was coaching not long ago who was suffering from depression and severe anxiety. And during one period of 10 weeks, she has much less anxiety now. She's much more able to function, especially social anxiety. She was not even able to dance before in front of people, and now she can move a little bit. So that's really positive, and that's just from one cycle of microdosing. So who shouldn't microdose? You shouldn't microdose if you are drunk or drinking, or drugs, or on other stimulants like caffeine. Like, you can do it on caffeine, but it's recommended that you don't. And you shouldn't microdose if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and also if you have an existing heart condition. And these are just the reason why I'm mentioning these things, just because we haven't researched microdosing enough, and we can't do that yet because many places psychedelics is still illegal. And until it becomes legal, it's going to be really hard for us to study, because you're going to do it on a longer period. Right now, it's only possible for us to study like one dose, and then like giving people one dose and then looking at that. So a lot of people that are having these conditions are still okay, even though they have done it, but you should definitely check in with a microdosing coach or therapist or your medical professional if you have any of these conditions. So other things that we don't recommend: if you take SSRIs, which is serotonin reinhibitor antidepressants, or lithium or MAO inhibitors. They can either completely neglect the effects of the microdose or enhance the effects. So we generally don't recommend, and sometimes it can even be dangerous to combine with microdosing. Also, if you have high anxiety that you're taking medication for, we don't recommend microdosing. If you have high anxiety in general, then there are some substances that are better to microdose with than others. But sometimes, because microdosing makes you more aware of the things that's going on, it makes you aware of the root causes of why you're getting anxious, it can also enhance that feeling of anxiety so then you can change those things that are causing the anxiety in the first place. So this is the difference between other medications that we're taking right now, where you are just being, they make you feel less. They make you less sensitive to what's going on. And then, so you're basically just numbing yourself, where microdosing makes you feel more. If you have a history of psychosis, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, or any other kinds of personality disorders, we also generally do not recommend people microdosing unless they're doing it under the surveillance of their psychiatrist or a medical doctor who knows about psychedelics and knows what they're doing. And then you shouldn't microdose if you're colorblind. There have been people that are colorblind where they have tracers while they microdose, and also for months afterwards. So in general, if you're colorblind, you have to consider whether microdosing is for you. All right, let's stand up. Stand up. All right, you're gonna find a buddy. Can I just borrow your heights right here?
That's good.
You're gonna find a buddy. You're gonna stand in front of each other here. You're gonna put your hands up like this, and you're gonna push and let go. And it's not about being strong. It's just about making the other person step forward or step backwards. So we're gonna put here.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's like
that. Yes.
Gotcha.
All right.
Bruh, okay.
All right.
Gotcha.
You can give your buddy a hug, or a high five.
Awesome.
All right. There is a seat right here. Welcome. You have to sneak in behind here. Just watch out for the. Yeah. Amazing. All right. That's all good. So what are the risks and how can we avoid those risks? Because there are risks with microdosing, but most of them can be avoided if we know how to do that. This is a study done by British psychiatrist and can't remember, but it's a pharmacologist. But he does studies on different substances and the effects of those. And this is a study on the harm of different substances. And what we can see is that LSD and mushrooms are among the 3 least harmful drugs known to man. Much safer than, for example, tobacco or alcohol, which is the most dangerous substance that we have. Commonly accepted between all of us. Yeah, so just wanted to share that. Yep. Cheers, guys. So these are some of the risks. The first and foremost, the biggest risk we have is illegality. Most places around the world, psychedelics are still illegal, especially here in the Western world. Though there are ways that we can get psychedelics in a legal way, or be in places like here in Portugal where things are decriminalized. It's okay to have for your own personal use. It's not okay to distribute or sell these drugs. So if you're going out to purchase them, you're putting yourself and the other person in risk. But luckily, there's ways we can get this in a more legal way, and I'll show you this a little bit later in the talk. Sometimes we can have reduced energy when we microdose. In general, it gives us more energy, but sometimes it reduces our energy because microdosing makes us aware of what's already going on. Many of you are overworking yourself, not taking enough breaks throughout the day. And when you're microdosing, you become aware of that. So basically just saying, hey, buddy, slow down. It's time for you to get some more sleep, take a few more breaks. So it just makes you aware of what's going on already. So it's not going to make you tired if you're not already tired and needing a break. It's just going to make you aware that you need a break before you go into burnout. It can also give you lower mood for a period of time because when you are microdosing, it makes you aware of the emotions that's going on. Many times as human beings, we compartmentalize. We block our emotions to be in different situations in order just to be okay. For example, let's say you have a work that you don't really like, but you're just blocking those emotions and you just make it work. When you're microdosing, that can become really hard and you become aware that, okay, maybe it's time for me to change my job. It can also make you aware that there are some thoughts or some emotions that you haven't been processing, and while these come to the surface, you can temporarily have a lower mood. But then you're also able to deal with them at the root cause, which is, on the other hand, is going to boost your mood if you start working with these things. Some people also experience an increasing anxiety. Like I said before, it makes you more aware of what's going on. So when you're microdosing, you become more aware or you feel enhanced the things that are causing your anxiety. So you can start dealing with the root cause of your anxiety. Yeah, I have to promise to also how to avoid them. So for the reduced energy, make sure that you get enough rest and take breaks throughout the day. For the lower mood, then it's important that you have a good support group. So make sure that your friends or family know that you're doing this. Otherwise, it can make sense to get a therapist if you start microdosing and you're experiencing lower mood. For anxiety, what you can do is taking psilocybin mushrooms. It generally has a less anxiety-inducing effect. And you can also take smaller doses that also makes it less anxiety-inducing. For reduced focus and concentration, sometimes if you take too much and you're no longer microdosing, then no longer subperceptual, then it can be really hard to focus, especially on screens or on phones. So then it just because you took too much. If you find the ideal dose, and which is really, really important when you're microdosing, that helps you to focus even more in whatever you're doing because you're much more present and aware in your daily tasks. So for some people, impulsivity and mania can be a risk because what microdosing does, it puts you into flow states. And flow states are not much different from mania. The only difference is you enter a flow state and you exit flow states again. Mania is something that they don't exit. So if you are microdosing and you become aware, wow, I'm constantly in flow, also when I'm not microdosing, that's a good sign you should probably stop microdosing. And it's very important that you also stick to your protocol. That means that you're microdosing, let's say, every 1, 2, 3 days. We'll go into protocols later on. That's how often you microdose. And make sure you have breaks between your microdosing periods. So let's say you microdose for 5, 10 weeks. Then it's important you have these breaks. There are sometimes toxic substances, especially if you're working with LSD and you're working with research chemicals, which we're going to go into a little bit later. There have been research chemicals which are highly toxic, even in small amounts. But what we can do is we can test our substances before we take them. And we can get these kits online and test our kits. They're like 20 euros and you can buy them online and then test your kits when you come home. And this way you make sure that what you're taking is actually what you want to take and not some other compound that's just been called LSD or something like that. And also, if you're going out foresting in the wild or you're getting mushrooms, most of the time you can see what it is. If you're buying truffles, you're getting it from companies that are selling this so you can know what you're getting there. So it's mostly for LSD. You should definitely test your substances. For people that are struggling with sleeping, it's important that you are, because when you're microdosing, it makes you more energetic, more lucid, and this is not a good state to be in if you want to go sleep. So it's important that we microdose in the morning, or at least 12 hours before you want to go to sleep. This is a way that we don't, that the microdose is not going to interfere with our sleep. Or you can also decide to microdose psilocybin, which only lasts around 4 to 7 hours, where LSD can last up to 12 hours. So if you're having struggles with sleep already, then it makes sense to choose mushrooms instead. Heart problems is another risk. Psilocybin and LSD activates the 5-H2B receptor in the heart, similar to MDMA. And what we've seen is with chronic activation of this, it can cause heart problems for people that already have a weak heart. But we don't really know. Oh, interesting. We don't really know what happens with people that are taking prolonged, taking LSD and psilocybin in a prolonged way. Normally, but we've seen people that have been doing it since the 60s without any adverse effects. For example, the inventor of LSD, Albert Hofmann, he was microdosing for most of his life. Like he's taking thousands of microdoses, and he lived until he was 102. So anecdotally, we know that microdosing is a pretty safe thing to do, but still, if you're having heart problems, I would be cautious and seek out your medical professional. All right, just give me 1 second. It went into sleep mode. All right. The final risk is psychological dependence. So, yeah, went away. So, because microdosing feels so freaking good when you do it. I was coaching this guy, and he was doing a lot of practices every day. Like he was doing 1 hour of yoga, he was doing 1 hour of meditation, and then he started microdosing. And he was doing this because he had a problem with a chronic disease that was coming up every time he got stressed. So when he was microdosing, he was feeling so good that he didn't have to do the other practices. So he stopped microdosing because he was feeling so good that he didn't feel like doing the other practices. So the same as doing 2 hours of yoga and meditation, you can get the same feeling during the whole day just from microdosing. So he was like, oh wow, this feels great. And that's the feeling you can have when you microdose. So that can be a problem if you then start breaking your protocol, meaning you start taking a dose every single day, or you don't have breaks between your microdosing protocols. So that's important that you become aware that you are becoming psychologically addicted. You cannot become physically addicted. There's no receptors in the body that's going to crave the LSD or the psilocybin if you stop taking it. Many times, if I don't put an alarm in my calendar or a reminder, I forget to take my microdose. So it's not physically addictive. It's only psychologically addictive because the effects feels great. All right, I think it's time to stand up again. Find a buddy. All right, hands up. In front of each other. So right against right is 1, left against left is 2, and then both together is 3. Right is 1, left is 2, both is 3. Okay? 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 3, 3, 3. All right, give each other a high five or a hug. Thank you very much. I'm so happy that I can play with a bunch of adults. Like, we're all kids, we're just pretending to be adults, but I'm happy that you can play a little bit with me today. So thank you for that. Let's go into the 5 steps to begin microdosing. The first step is setting your intention. So the intention is so important whenever we're working with psychedelics. Actually, whenever we're doing anything, we want to know, where are we going with this? What is the end point we're looking for? It's kind of like a compass that directs you through your journey. So your intention is, you find that by asking yourself, what do I want to get from this experience? What is the outcome I'm looking for? So there was this guy I worked with not long ago. He wanted to find out what his purpose was. So the intention for his microdosing experience was to figure out what is my purpose and how can I become aware of that. So, all right, just my own alarm. Well done. So he wanted to figure out what his purpose is. So during the microdosing period, he wanted to figure out what his purpose is. And that is his intention. It can also be an intention of, let's say you have a lot of anxiety, how can I reduce my anxiety? It can both be a question and it can be a statement. I want to reduce my anxiety, or how can I reduce my anxiety? It can also be, I want to overcome procrastination. I want to improve my relationships. I want to become a better leader. I want to eat healthier or start moving my body more. So this is your intention. Then you want to figure out how do you know then you arrived. So normally what you would do, let's say for anxiety, you would make a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is 0 anxiety and 10 is like a panic attack. And you will measure that. So where's your anxiety right now? What is the situations where you feel anxiety? Because these are the situations where you're going to measure it when you're microdosing and also when you're not microdosing, during your microdosing protocol. So you measure your anxiety levels right now. And then as you go along your microdosing period, you're going to measure how am I feeling during this microdosing period. Are they going down? What am I becoming aware of? So then you can also see in the end, when you're doing another test, what is your anxiety levels now? And this is just for anxiety. It could be for energy, your energy levels. It could be for productivity, how many pages you wrote, and so on. So that's the first step, setting your intention. All right? Second step is finding the right medicine. So here, let's talk a little bit about the two medicines that are the most common to work with. We have LSD and we have psilocybin. LSD comes both as normal LSD and also LSD analogs. We're going to talk about that in a second. And the psilocybin comes both in the form of psilocybin mushrooms and also psilocybin truffles. So for LSD, it works generally, is more extroverted, it gives you more energy, it's good for creativity and focus. So it's better for improving productivity and work. It also has a better boosting effect because it's energetic, so it's better for boosting mood. So if you're depressed, then LSD can be better for that. It has a lighter body load. It feels more light, and like mushrooms can feel a little bit heavy in the body, but that's good because it puts you in the body. But LSD is more light, and it can be more like in the head. So if you have a tendency to be a lot in your head, then LSD might not be the best for you, unless you have practices that ground you and put you in the body. LSD lasts anywhere between 8 to 12 hours. For psilocybin, on the other hand, it tends to be more like introverted, feeling-oriented experiences. It's really good for processing emotions. It's really good for going through difficult times. Let's say you're going for a breakup or someone died, then mushrooms is a really good tool for that. Or you just want to figure out your purpose or where you're going in life, then mushrooms can also be really good for that. It's better for people that have high anxiety. And the reason for that is it puts you more in the body, it makes you more in contact with your emotions, and it's less speedy than LSD can be. And it has a heavier body load, and then it lasts anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. So it's also better for people that have sleep problems because it doesn't last as long. Good? So this is the differences, the main differences between LSD and psilocybin, their main effects. So then we have to figure out how do we then find these medicines. For LSD, we have something called research chemicals. And research chemicals are analogs. They look chemically different than LSD, but work the same way in the body. So let's say you have something called 1P-LSD. It is 1-propionyl LSD. And that means that it has a propionyl in this physical form, and that's why it's not illegal most places in the world. There's other kinds of LSD forms, like 1CP-LSD, 1V-LSD, and most of these places, they're not regulated. So they're actually legal in many places around the world. So this is one way you can get legal LSD. And you can buy this online, both here in Europe and in the US. I think you can buy it from Canada. But in US, most of these are regulated. You can find out whether your substance is legal or illegal by Googling it. And in Wikipedia, it says the legal status. Then you can create relationships with other psychonauts. So you can be at an event like this. I would swear or like bet that at least 10% of you already have or know where to get mushrooms, LSD, truffles, whatever. So you create relationships with people like this. Also, I find that people that are into crypto, breathwork, and NFTs, what else? Biohacking. Generally, these people also know where and how to find psychedelics. And then the final and the most risky one is to go to the dark web or go to street level vendors. I generally don't recommend that. If you do it, always communicate using encrypted apps. Also use clogged browsers like Tor browser. Buy your things with cryptocurrency just to hide your identity as much as possible. The same goes for research chemicals. You can also buy with cryptocurrency to hide your identity. Psilocybin, that is legal many places around the world. You can buy it from Holland, where truffles are legal, for example. Many places the kits are legal, so it's legal to buy the kits. It's legal to have the spores, which is the seeds of the mushrooms, and then it doesn't become illegal until you have fully grown mushrooms. So, and when we're here in Portugal, that's great because you can have for your own possession. That's not illegal, it's just decriminalized. So you can buy from online vendors from, for example, here in Europe, you can buy from Holland. There's many places you can get truffles, you can get mushroom grow kits, and you can grow yourself, or you can get the truffle straight delivered to your door. I've done that many times here in Portugal. Then you can go forest, so you can go out in the wild. You can find mushrooms. I don't know which mushrooms grows here, but in Denmark I used to pick, they're called liberty caps. And they look like tiny little mushrooms with a little pointy cap. But it's important that you know what you're doing. So when you're going foresting, always go with someone that knows what you're picking, because there's many different plants and some of them are toxic. So you want to know what you're doing and make sure you don't pick anything that's endangered. For example, substances like peyote, which is a cactus, is growing super slow and it's becoming endangered because people, they want to try everything. Also, you have the Sonorian desert toad, the Bufo alvarius. You don't want to, you can get synthetic substances that does the same. And also we have iboga. Many places are offering this, but they don't choose sustainable sources. Always know that what you're doing is sustainable. Again, for here, you can also create relationships like for the LSD, and you can go to the dark web or street level vendors. To give you an idea of the prices, LSD is at a price point for a blotter. The moderate dose is like 100 micrograms. It costs like 8 to 15 euros. Or you can get a drop bottle with 50 to 100 moderate doses. It will cost you anywhere from 200 to 400 euros. All right. Third step. Now you know your intention, you know how to find it and which works best for you. Then you need to know how much and how often should you do this then. So for LSD, a microdose of LSD is anywhere between 5 to 15 micrograms. Beyond that, you have a mini dose. It's anywhere from 15 to 30 micrograms. And this can be of LSD or 1P-LSD or another analog of these compounds. By the way, I'm going to share the slides with you afterwards, so you don't. Yeah. I'm going to share the slides. Also, if you have questions during the presentation, just raise your hand and I'll answer that. Yeah, you have a question? Yes, let's go.
Because you said Q&A at the end, so I didn't know if we could like answer.
No, like if you have a question now and you're like burning to, then we can take it now.
Well, it was for the previous slides, but the first one I had is about, can we mix up LSD and psilocybin during the same protocol during a certain period?
If you're routine, you can do that. But if you're not, I generally recommend you just choose one substance and go with that for your first microdosing period. And then until you have familiarity with mushrooms, until you have familiarity with LSD, you just choose one substance. Because the reason for that is calibration, and finding the ideal dose for you is very important. So if you're changing all the time, it can be really hard to dial in. It will take you a long time to dial in and find the ideal substance. So of course you can try it in the beginning. You can try mushrooms and LSD and just see the differences, how it affects you. But I would recommend choosing one and just working with that, and then you can switch to another one in a new microdosing period.
Okay. And based on that, which is, let's say you were microdosing for 8 weeks, do you set the intention for
Normally, yeah. Okay, maybe we take these questions later. You have it written down because we're gonna go into this. Yeah, maybe we take the questions later. That's good. You have it written down?
Yeah.
All right, that's great. Okay, good. For psilocybin, a microdose is for magic mushrooms, dried magic mushrooms. It's anywhere from 0.1 to 0.4 grams. And then for dried psilocybin truffles, I put dried in bold because many times when you buy truffles, they come fresh. So you need to dry them first. And dry weight is around 30% less than fresh weight, just so you know. So a microdose of psilocybin truffles is 0.35 to 1.4 grams.
How long did it take to dry?
Like one day or something like that, 1 to 2 days max. Yeah, it doesn't take long. Then we have how often should we do it? And the most common protocol, there are many different protocols, but the most common one that we can use is the James Fadiman one. And this was developed for LSD, but it can also be used for psilocybin. So here you would take a microdose every 3 days. So you would take one today, you wouldn't take one tomorrow, you wouldn't take one on Friday, and you again take one on Saturday. And you'll do that for anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. And it's important you have these break days because let's say the medicine is working today, then the reason why it works so well is today the medicine will work if you microdose today. Tomorrow you're going to have an afterglow, so the medicine is still working inside of you. And then on Friday, which would be the second day where you're not microdosing, it's kind of be like a back to baseline, so you can see what is the difference. And then you're microdosing again on Saturday. So you're going to have like 2 days feeling the effects of the medicine. 1 day you don't feel anything, and then you're back to microdosing. And you do that for a longer period of time. I generally recommend that you microdose for at least 66 days if you're trying to change habits. That is the average time it takes to change a habit. So I recommend doing that. All right. And then having a 2 to 4 week break between your microdosing periods is very important to not build. To not build up tolerance, to not become psychologically addicted to the substance. Yes. Step number 4, preparing your microdoses. So what we need to prepare our microdoses for LSD is, for LSD we need a small syringe or anything that can measure up milliliters. You can get that in the pharmacy, it's super easy to get. You need a small bottle, preferably dark and watertight. And then you need some distilled water. You can get that in most pharmacies or Continent or Leroy Merlin, here in Portugal at least. And you need a measuring cup that can measure, let's say, 100 milliliters or 200 milliliters. And if you're buying LSD off the dark web or from a street level vendor, I would definitely recommend testing your LSD first. And then for psilocybin, you need a microscale, and you need a blender or coffee spice grinder to make it into a uniform powder. And it's very important that we do this because the content of psilocybin varies from mushroom to mushroom and between strains. So it's important that we blend it to get a uniform result, so we have even psilocybin in all of our doses. And also, if you change mushrooms or strain, I generally don't recommend that. So always make sure you buy enough for your entire microdosing period. This both goes for LSD and for psilocybin. It sucks to run out of your microdoses when you're doing a protocol, because then you have to stop and you might be close to a breakthrough or you might be doing really well. So I generally recommend buying enough and doing that calculation before you buy something. Then to make the microdose for LSD is you take, let's say, 100 milliliters of distilled water. You measure that out. You pour the water into your little bottle or container, and then you can add the tab or tabs and then or the liquid LSD into the bottle, and then you close the bottle, give it a little shake, and then you can store it in the fridge for 24 hours. That means that, let's say you put 100 micrograms inside 100 milliliters, then each milliliter will have 1 microgram. You can then afterwards leave the tab inside, or you can take it out. It doesn't really matter. All right. Then for psilocybin, you first have to dry them if you don't have them dried. If you buy truffles, they normally come fresh. If you grow your own mushrooms, you have to dry them first.
How do you dry them?
How you dry them? There's 2 ways to dry them. One is you put them on a paper towel, and then you can put another paper towel on top. Or if you have a fan, you can make that blow straight to the mushrooms, and then they dry in like 2 or 3 days. Another way to do it is buy a dehydrator. They are anywhere from like 20 to 40 euros, and then you dry them on the lowest heat for like 12 to 24 hours. Yeah, and generally keep them out of sunlight. Sunlight, heat, breaks down psilocybin and LSD, so we don't want that. And then we store both LSD and psilocybin in a dark container in the fridge that makes it last longer. It can last, psilocybin lasts around 12 months like that, but the psilocybin content slowly deteriorates over time. So it's best to use it within 3 to 6 months. All right, I think we should stand again. We're almost through this course. All right, okay, so this time we don't need a buddy. So this is 1. So our right ear is 1. Our left ear is 1. Our left eye is 2. Our nose is 3. Our right eye is 4. And our ear is 5. So now we're going to count, okay? 321. Exactly. You do like this. 2, 2, 4. 5, 5, 6. Sit down. All right, it's good just to break it up a little bit. We're at step number 5. We're ready to begin microdosing. We have all our materials. We know our intention. Let's begin. So I just want to go through a few things for your first microdosing day. The first thing you want to do is you find your ideal dose. We talked a little bit about this, but this is very important when we microdose, is to find the ideal dose. The ideal dose is where you feel most of the benefits without too many of the unwanted side effects. So the benefits, they are that you have laser focus, and the unwanted side effect is you have problems focusing, or you're directing too much of your attention to the microdose and not on your daily activities. The benefit would be that you go through the day just feeling everything is effortless. You're just flowing through the day versus you're feeling like a heightened sense of anxiety. A benefit would be to forget that you took a microdose versus you having visual or even mood disturbances. So these are some of the things we're looking for to find the ideal dose for us. And that depends on the intention, depends on the circumstances we're going to take the microdoses in. So yeah, that's important that you slowly calibrate to find the ideal dose. The first day you microdose, pick a really good day. A good day is a day where you don't have much planned, you don't have any major social commitments, work commitments. You don't have to drive a car, operate heavy machinery. You're generally safe to just be and feel whatever comes up for the next 6 to 12 hours. I recommend microdosing in the morning before you eat breakfast, and the reason for that is when you eat, it really diminishes the effects of the microdose. So it's better to microdose before you eat breakfast, around an hour before. Then you make sure that you feel the effects, and then you can eat afterwards, and that's not going to impact the experience. And also to make sure that you can sleep at night. I always recommend before you start microdosing to ask yourself, is this a good day for me to microdose? There are some days, for example, I was not completely sure today if I should microdose, and then you can either do some breathing or a little meditation or a little bit of stretching and just see, okay, yeah, actually it's a good day. But if it's not a good day, you should trust that and then postpone to another day. Before you microdose, always repeat your intention to yourself. This is so important when we're doing anything, and it also keeps holding your awareness and focus on what you want to change or improve. So just say, what's my intention? And then you take your microdose. Then you want to prioritize your own and others' safety. That means that don't operate heavy machinery, don't drive cars, don't go out in public, at least for the first days until you find the right dose. We are humans, so we can make mistakes, especially working with LSD. It's easy to overdose, and many people have done that in the past. So just pick a good day and don't put yourself in dangerous situations. So let's say you take too much or too little. If you take too little, that's just that for today. You don't redose. Then the next day you just up your dose a little bit. But if you take too much, what you can do is you can go outside, hug a tree. That really helps. You can put on some gentle music, just lay down and remind yourself that you took a drug and it's going to wear off eventually. You can make sure you have a good friend that you can talk to. You can eat something that's really good to ground you. You can stretch, you can move your body. You can drink a calming tea. These are some of the things you can do to calm down and get back and just relax and know that it's going to be okay. So yeah, Then when you take your microdose, you just be, feel, meditate, journal, and eat something healthy. That's what I recommend for the first microdosing day. Then for day 2 and 3, on day 2 you will have a little bit of the afterglow. Just rest, journal, exercise, meditate, eat well. You can continue your normal daily activities. That's completely fine. But try and keep a little bit of awareness for these days and see if there's anything that's different. Yeah, we talked about this, the sweet spot versus overdosing. Sweet spot is, for your microdose, is your laser focus. Overdose is you have problems focusing. Sweet spot is you're going through the day feeling effortless versus you having hiding anxiety. And the sweet spot is you look back at the day and you're like, wow, this is just a really good day, versus you're feeling a little bit off during the day. And then the sweet spot is you forget many times during the day that you even took a microdose, versus that during the day the walls are breathing or you're feeling a little bit like your mood is not super cool. What you do to adjust your dose, to calibrate your dose, is you increase, normally with 0.1 in the beginning, you increase with larger amounts to find your microdosing range, which is where you don't feel any of the benefits, to where you begin feeling the unwanted side effects, and then you want to scale down. So in the beginning you would adjust with 0.1 gram for psilocybin mushrooms, 0.35 grams for psilocybin truffles, and then 5 micrograms for LSD. And then when you find, okay, now it's getting too much, you go back to the last dose you had. And then you adjust with 0.01 grams of psilocybin mushrooms, 0.035 grams of psilocybin truffles, and 1 micrograms of LSD to find the ideal dose. All right? Then for microdosing day 4, again, pick a good day for microdosing. You might increase your dose on this day. Make sure you have the right dose prepared. Again, microdose in the morning before you eat breakfast. Ask yourself, is this a good day for me to microdose? And then again, repeat your intention before you take your microdose. And I generally recommend for the first 2 days or the first 3 days, because you're going to increase your dose until you find the ideal dose, that you treat them more or less the same. Days for trial and error. Days where where if you take too much, then you know that you have a place just to be and relax. Again, day 5 and 6, rest, journal, exercise, meditate, eat well, lots of plans. Really does you good. Okay, let's take a 5-step example. Does anybody want to go through this process and we can look at, yeah? So what's your intention? What do you want to get from microdosing? That's step 1.
To me, it's more about chronic pain and mostly being more grounded into my body, which is 2 things I'm looking for in practice. I don't have any issue with procrastination or focus.
Okay.
So it's mostly that, and probably mood stabilizing, but I guess that just comes with it.
Yeah. So that's step 1. You're pretty clear you want to reduce chronic pain and get more in the body. So these are 2 things that they definitely have some kind of correlation. So I would be very clear that you could just set one intention: to get more in my body or to reduce my pain levels. So you would start figuring out what should I track. So you track your pain levels right now. Let's say they're from a scale from 1 to 10. How much are they right now?
Probably a 6.
So they're 6. Okay. So let's say now you begin microdosing. You want to track your pain levels throughout your microdosing period. So this is step 1. Step 2 for you, you want to find the right medicine. Because you say you want to get more in the body and you also want to reduce the pain, and that helps when you get in the body, that would choose psilocybin. And that could be psilocybin mushrooms or psilocybin truffles. It really depends on where you are. Because we're in Portugal, if you want to grow yourself, you can buy a mushroom kit. You can buy truffles online from Holland. So these are the 2 options for you that you could do. The third step would be how much and how often. There's this protocol I talked about before, the Fadiman protocol, that would work for you. But there's also a protocol called the Stamage protocol. And there you would take a microdose, let's say Monday and Tuesday. You would have a break on Wednesday, and you would take a microdose on Thursday and Friday. And you do that for a month, and then we have 2 weeks break. So it's a little bit different. So this could be a way that would work. I think that would be better for you because you'll be covered more days of the week. Yeah. Then step number 4 is to prepare it, because you're choosing, let's say what would you choose, mushrooms or truffles?
I don't know. I initially did. Well, I initially just wanted to go full LSD. For that, I've been trying to find a microdosing partners for 2 years now.
Okay.
So I was going more for the LSD on the specifically for the brain connectivity side plasticity thing.
Yes.
I've studied it for a while, but I've always like said that I would not do mushrooms because the dose is hard to control and the biological effects seem to be a little more off than LSD.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I also have a question about how would that work with menstrual cycle in women, which is something that is definitely not studied at all. And I feel like the psilocybin mushrooms would be difficult to control over the LSD.
With the dose, it's quite easy to get that right with psilocybin mushrooms or truffles, especially when you know the right dosages, which you get here. For your cycles, then a lot of women are both experiencing benefits. Anecdotally, we don't have research on this. Anecdotally, they experience benefits both with LSD and psilocybin, so I don't really think that matters too much. Biologically, like the side effects, there is like some people, if you have problems with digestion or nausea, that can happen with mushrooms, not so much with LSD. So the first 30, 45, 60 minutes, you can have some nausea, but that can be helped if you take some ginger tea or some over-the-counter digestive aids, or you don't eat before you take your microdose. All of that will help you. I would recommend getting truffles because you can order them straight away. They're ready, you just have to dry them, and then you can grind them and you can start making your microdoses, which is step number 4. So this is what I would recommend for you. Then step number 5, well, you begin microdosing, you go through the period, you say your intention to myself, I want to reduce my pain levels, and you will start getting an awareness during your days how you can do that. All right? Good. So what are the next steps? What can we do now? I'm creating an microdosing online course. It should be ready within the next couple of weeks. If you want, I have all your emails. I hope it's okay that I send you an email afterwards, just to say, hey, I'm making this course. You can join it if you're interested in it. At least for the guys who signed up. If you want to be notified, you can just let me know, and I can write down your emails afterwards. Then I'm also doing microdosing, which is taking a microdose and then going hiking. And we're actually doing one. We're doing one on Sunday, only for entrepreneurs. And I'm doing one on the Sunday after that is the 19th for everybody, where what we do is we take a small dose of LSD and then we go hiking. Before that, we set our, normally it's from 10 to 4 o'clock. Yeah, I make lunches for you guys. We have breaks throughout the day just to feel the medicine. We're doing different exercises that helps you to figure out how can I bring more happiness and joy into my life. And a lot of people, yeah, they say, wow, I want to do this every week. Hater, I made can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I made a hater on one of my hikes 2 weeks ago. And how did you feel?
Fucking great.
Fucking great. All right, that's it. That's it.
That's the truth, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah,
it
that's
wasn't just great, like high. You know, it was also like feeling deep, like listening to my body, learning. So, it was
yeah,
a great experience.
So if you're feeling great, but you also felt you're in your body and connected.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, we do that. We do that on a regular basis. Again, if you want to do that, let me know and I can sign you up for one. Then I also do microdosing coaching. So let's say you're a little bit uncertain about the different steps. Then I offer coaching where I take you through the different steps and make sure you get the right medicine, make sure you know how to be completely self-sufficient microdoser, because microdosing is a skill. And even with the course and even with this talk today, there can still be questions like, how do I calibrate my dose, or how do I set my intention? And it can just help to have a microdosing coach to go through that process. And then, yeah.
Do you do this here like the next 4 days?
Yeah, the hikes?
Would you offer that to do that here?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Amazing. Then I do one-on-one guided sessions. So that's for you that wants to have a macro dosing experience. We're taking a larger dose of psychedelics, and yeah, that's something else. So that's a guided experience. There's a lot of preparation before. Normally we spend 5 weeks just to prepare you to go into the experience. It's one-on-one preparation. And then we have the experience, which is normally we do some yoga and some breath work and some journaling before. I sit with you during the entire experience, help you go through if there's anything difficult coming up. And then the days after, we integrate the experience, normally the day after. So we put whatever came up on the journey into practices that you can then use in your everyday life. So it becomes something that becomes an integrated part of your life. So it's not just a one-time thing. It's something that's going to benefit you now and also in the future. Then we also have retreats. These are, right now we're just only doing retreats for entrepreneurs, but hopefully we'll open up and do a retreat for everybody. And these retreats, we have the same process. We have 5 weeks of one-on-one preparation. Then on the retreat is 3 days. The first day is all about connecting. It's about, we're gonna do yoga and breath work and sauna and ice baths. So the day after, where we take the medicine, you're just so ready and open. You're just ready to face anything that you want to face. You're just ready to go any direction you want to go. You're just there, ready, like a noodle. Let me see what I have to see. And then the day after is small, like chill events, getting back to the body, integrating the experience. We have one-on-one integration sessions the day after. And then following the retreat, we have 4 weeks of group coaching for accountability and making sure that what you experienced is something that you're putting into your daily life. And because what happens many times is people, they experience amazing transformations and they're like, wow, I really changed. And they come back and they're like ready to tell their family and their friends, like, look, all these things that happened, and their family and friends, they're still the same. And that can be a real challenge when you come out. So having the group coaching, make sure that you have people that knows what you've gone through, people that can support you through this journey, this process of transformation, and just help you to have patience with the world around you that's not going through these like hyper leaps of personal growth and healing, because that's what happens when you're doing it in this structured way. So what we do is much different from many other retreats. Many places, you show up, let's say for many ayahuasca retreats, you show up, you're 15 people, you don't know the people, you don't know the shaman, and you have a circle, you share your intention, you have maybe 1 minute to share if you're lucky, and then you lay down, you do maybe a few songs or something like that, you get the medicine, you travel together, and then the day after you have a sharing circle. For 1 minute again, you get to share your experience, and that's it. You're fully responsible for your preparation, you're fully responsible for integrating the experiences into your life, even understanding the experience. And this is different because we really help you to prepare to the experience, really make sure that you open the doors you want to open. You get what you want to get from the experience. All right, Q&A. You have some questions?
Yeah, I'll go after.
Okay.
I have like 15.
Oh, wow. If anybody has to go, that's completely all right. This is
I have a question for you, actually. So you said that you were looking for a microdosing partner.
Yeah.
So my question is, why would you need a microdosing partner?
I was looking for a local one where I'm in France because I'm looking to do a group where we would actually conduct a little study and have basic variables that we would track all together during a kind of semi-scientific protocol. So I wanted the partners for both having a group with different experiences to share so that it's both accountable and responsible, and that we could have actual variables we could measure on ourselves altogether.
That's amazing. I'm creating an online microdosing community that you can join, and most of them would probably be based here in Lisbon, so I'm pretty sure you can connect with other microdosers that way.
But I'm in France, so thank
You're
you.
in France, okay. Yeah, I'm sure you can find microdosing communities in France. Try and search microdosing on Facebook groups, and I'm pretty sure you can find Facebook groups in France and connect with other microdosers that way. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Thank you, guys.
I have a question. Like,
Yes?
You talk about the experiences.
Yes.
What is like an example of an experience that you've had?
With microdosing?
No, with the big one.
The big ones.
Yeah.
I can tell you about my first heroic dose with magic mushrooms, which is it's a big dose. It's 5 grams or more.
Yeah.
And this was also my first guided experience. And there, I was laying inside, eyes closed, and what I experienced was complete loss of self. Like everything I know as me, as a man, as being from Denmark, my language, being everything like that just disappeared, and it became pure consciousness, pure awareness, and I felt so happy, so safe, so loved. I was like, this feels so good. Like it was pure bliss, and I realized, wow, okay, if this is what happens when what I think is me goes away, then I'm okay with that. So I made peace with death. And then after that experience, which is incredible, I saw myself being like in the outer cosmos, being a star, going down to being a bird, to being a dog, to being a little insect, to being a little bacteria, to being a little atom, seeing the world from these different perspectives. And just like, wow, I have no perspective. Being here, like I'm just it's like being in the gutter. And there you get like bird's eye perspective. So suddenly what you think is important doesn't become so important anymore. Like those little problems that are bugging you right now just become less important. They're like, oh, yeah, that's it. So these are some of the two main benefits I got from my first big journey. And every time it helps me to become more free, more authentic, more free and authentic. Yeah, that's what I feel it does.
Have you ever had a bad experience?
I have had a difficult experience. And that's also why I recommend that if you go into macrodosing territory, that you always have a guide or someone who's sober sitting with you, especially if you go into above moderate doses. So for example, that would be above 3 grams for mushrooms and above 100 micrograms for LSD. I would always recommend having a sitter, because like you can have times where you feel like you're losing your mind, or you feel like even though you took the mushroom, you're like, will this ever end? That thought can come, and if you don't have anyone to anchor you to reality, that can be difficult to deal with. Eventually you come back, but it's difficult. Yeah. I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Martin,
Yes?
is there something known as a bad trip? I mean, does a bad trip really exist? I
No.
certainly know that I've had interesting ones, but is there such a thing as a bad trip?
No, there's no such thing as a bad trip really. Like there's difficult ones, like you say, like there's difficult ones. I had one that was very difficult, where the mushrooms told me that I had to go to Nepal and learn to meditate on a mountain, and I had to be there for 5 years, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I felt a lot of emotional pain. I was feeling physical discomfort and emotional pain, and the mushrooms kept saying, you have to do this, and I said no, and I kept giving excuses. But I can't do that because I'm engaged, and I bought an apartment, and I'm doing this study, and I'm working on my business, and I have all these friends and family, and every time the mushrooms just told me, no, this is not an excuse. You have to go here. And then finally I made a peace with the mushrooms to tell them, listen, what if I start meditating here? Because it doesn't make sense that I go far away, sitting on a mountain and learn to meditate, when I can learn to meditate right here in all the chaos, because there it's going to be peaceful. Then I come back in the chaos. How can I meditate here? So, and the mushrooms accepted that. They're like, yeah, okay, if you can meditate here, all right, that's okay. So I went through an experience. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, where I was going through this discussion, and it was very difficult. I was really feeling discomfort. But then it turned out to be something very positive, because I've been meditating since, and this is 5 years ago. So I don't know if that answered your question. So yeah, difficult experiences can turn into a very positive one. Yeah. Yes, Aurelio.
So, let's say you have a psychological condition where you're a person that is more that can lean towards depression or bipolar or something like that, like something like a psychological issue.
Yeah.
Are the mushrooms going to enhance this condition? Are they going to help you understand what's inside yourself?
Yeah, so let's bipolar, generally we don't recommend people with bipolar because it can plunge them into a manic state. But people that are just depressed, generally what we find is that there's been the studies they've done now on depressed people, is that around 80%, even 3 to 6 months after just one high dose of psilocybin assisted psychotherapy have no depressive symptoms, 80%, just after one dose. So this is the effects of high doses of psychedelics on things like depression. What we also know is that after those 3 to 6 months, many people, they start coming back into the old habits. So that's why I recommend that you have support and guidance, and you might have to do several journeys to make the changes that are necessary for you to come out of these depressive states. Because what happens when people are in depression is it's basically their habits, their way of thinking, their way of acting in the world that puts them in a lethargic state. And you have to exert some kind of pressure to to come across these. I'm not saying that that's going to be easy, but when you microdose or take larger doses of psychedelics, it becomes much easier to make these changes and become aware of the changes you have to make to become depression-free or anxiety-free or another condition.
The person is not aware of the condition or the psychological conditions that they have. They're not aware. They never go to a doctor.
They're not aware that they're depressed, or they're aware that they're...
Bipolar, for example, they may not know.
If you're bipolar, like normally, also this is, we never take people in that have bipolar, schizophrenia, or any other kind of mental history in their family, and the reason for that is there can be chances that it runs in the family. So this is one of the ways we make sure that that doesn't happen, at least until we have more research and knowledge about this. I would generally do not recommend, if you are bipolar or have schizophrenia or other personality disorders, that you go into this space. Then it's better to wait a little bit and see. Or you work with a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a medical professional and start microdosing first and see how you react to that. This is the way I would do it. Did that answer your question? Thank you. Yes.
Oh no, she had a question.
No, no.
Come on.
I'm going to shoot like six.
That's all right. Let's go.
Okay, so most of them are very small practical questions. So when do I go to the ER?
When you go to the ER, you don't go to the ER.
No, I mean, at what point do I go, this might become a dangerous situation, and it's more than just talking to a friend and being grounded. At what point, what do we watch out for that we seek a medical professional in your
So that would happen if you overdosed on your microdose.
Yeah.
Probably not if you're microdosing. That would only, like, the dangerous situations is like if you're taking too much and you go outside, walking in the traffic, or you're operating heavy machinery or stuff like that. If you're by yourself and you are with someone, then generally, like, if people jump out the window, it's because they took a large dose. And that happens so rarely, and the media over-focus on these small cases than the millions of people who took a substance where nothing happened.
How long does it take? Like you say, you have to remember it's gonna wear off. How long does it take to wear off?
Anywhere is psilocybin mushrooms around 4 to 7 hours, and it becomes, there's a peak after like 1.5 hours, and then slowly goes down from there. For LSD, it can be up to 12 hours. Yeah. Yes? No, that's fine. Yeah, we'll connect later. All right, thank you very much, guys.
Do you or can you have coffee on a microdosing day?
You can definitely have coffee on a microdosing day. I do not recommend that you drink caffeine on the microdosing day. It's better to avoid that. But you can definitely do it, or just have less than you normally would, because you're going to feel the energy from the microdose. So it's only if you're addicted to caffeine, you might start having a headache when you stop drinking caffeine. So just get a little bit so you don't start getting the withdrawal symptoms from your caffeine addiction. Thank you very much. Yes?
Yeah, I have a question about the meditation aspect that you were just talking about.
Yes.
Is that something that you think is like synergistic with the microdosing or with the macrodosing? Or how do you do that?
Definitely, I feel like both microdosing and macrodosing works well with meditation. So microdosing, what is meditation? It's awareness focused training, like attention training, awareness training. When you microdose, you become more aware and your attention becomes sharper. So it's much easier to focus on your breath, to do a body scan meditation, to connect with deeper levels of yourself. especially with psilocybin, it really helps you to go deeper, go inward. So if you are wanting to, thank you, if you're wanting to deepen your meditation practice, I recommend microdosing. Also for macrodosing, what it does, especially with higher doses, it shows you what is the outcome we're looking for with meditation, because meditation is just a tool. It's a tool to help us become more free, and when you take larger doses, you can see what is the end point, what is the mountaintop, and then you know, oh, this is what I'm looking for when I'm meditating. This is the kind of peace or the inner feeling or sensation I'm looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
About the solvent, so you said water for LSD.
Yes. Distilled water.
Okay.
The reason why you don't use tap water, because the chlorine and the chemicals can break down the LSD. So use distilled water. You can also use alcohol, like you can use vodka. I like to use sweet wine, like the Tawny port or Madeira sweet wine. It works really well. Yeah.
I have one.
Yes, Braulio.
We'll switch.
Okay.
So, do you make adjustments between the microdosing between one intake and the next one?
Sorry, what?
When you make adjustments, when you want to make adjustments, do you make adjustments between intakes, like from one to the next?
Yeah.
You can do
So
that?
yeah, you can do that. So normally you would start, let's say you start with your first microdose. That would be, it's important you start, like, if you're completely new to psychedelics, you would start small. So you start with like 5 micrograms of LSD or 0.1 grams of psilocybin or 0.35 grams of psilocybin truffles. And then on the next dose, if you didn't feel anything, you can up. And you can either, like what I recommend, this is how I would personally do it to figure it out fast, is then you take the upper dose. It's like that would be 15 micrograms of LSD or 0.4 grams of psilocybin mushrooms or 1.4 grams of psilocybin truffles. Then you do that on the second one. So the first 2 days is you're figuring out your microdosing range. So the lowest to the highest. And even people, they feel something at the lowest doses. So sometimes it makes sense you have to decrease. Even after the first day you figure out, okay, this is already too much. Some people, they feel even minuscule doses. So you figure out your microdosing range, and then you can find, okay, this was way too much, or this was actually okay, and then you decrease from there. Or the first one, this is too little, and you increase from there. So first establish the range, and then you can start increasing or decreasing to find the ideal dose. And you do that in much smaller increments until you find the perfect level.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go.
If 4 is not, so if day 4 on your first protocol is not a good day, do you stay on it because it's protocol, or do you just start microdosing whenever you feel like it? Like, would you rather stick to your routine or just
No,
figure out?
I postpone.
Okay.
I would always postpone. So if it's not a good day, if you put it, I recommend putting in your calendar, just postpone it to the next day and move all the other days with that one.
Oh, okay.
Or you skip that day, and if, let's say, you go with the 4 days a week, the Paul Stamets, then you would just skip that day, and then you would just continue the day after. So it depends on the protocol you're using, okay?
Is it possible to microdose for other drugs like MDMA?
Not MDMA, and the MDMA works different. MDMA releases serotonin in your brain, so it floods your brain with serotonin. So if you're doing that all the time, then the problem is not all the serotonin is taken back up, so you're going to have a little bit less than you did before. And doing that chronically is not good. Also, it can cause heart problems with MDMA. With LSD and psilocybin, it works different. It kind of acts like an extra serotonin in your brain, but it doesn't release serotonin in that way.
And how do you recommend introducing that subject to your doctor?
You say, I'm planning to do this with or without your help. But I rather wanted to do it with your help, so let's go. And you can maybe you can share, I don't know, a video about microdosing with him or something like that.
Okay.
That could be a good start. Yeah.
Get them educated.
Yeah. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, I do have another one. So, do you have a network of people who like you would like guide Like, do you know of other people?
There are sites like tripsitters.org.
Trips to what?
Tripsitters.org.
I have no idea what you said.
Trip sitters, like TRI, tripsitters.org. There you can find retreats, private sitters.
Okay.
That would be a good resource to look at for other places around the world. Any more questions?
So is that like a website where you can find people like yourself?
Yes.
Guides?
Yes. Yeah. Good. If you go to that route, it's also always important you make sure that they have good preparation and integration practices, and that if they take the medicine, that they don't take very large doses of the medicine. Yeah, these are some of the things you should ask, and also ask yourself if they want to do this by myself, do they want to do it with other people. That's also important. And your budget, like you can find trip sitters that does it for free, but they're probably not going to prepare you or guide you, just going to be there with you. And you find people that are doing the whole thing. So it's really your budget and what you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Do they have like reviews on them, like TripAdvisor for?
Well, some people they have reviews on their site, right? So you will have to trust the reviews. For example, we have video testimonials from people. I also have written testimonials.
On your website.
Yeah. So like trip sitters, you go to their website so you can see if they have reviews from other people. I would look for that as well. It's a good sign that they're doing something right. Yes.
Yeah, do you ever find that having someone that isn't, partaking in the macrodosing piece of it, being in the room, that makes the person actually having the experience more comfortable?
If someone who's not doing it makes the other person more comfortable?
More uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't have a good relationship with your guide or sitter, I think that's important. It's important that you have someone that is able to, like we have this term, it's called whole space, able to just listen and be with whatever comes up. That's really, really important for a good guide. So if you don't have that, that can make you feel very uncomfortable. Also someone who doesn't tell you what's going to happen for your experience. What happens if something difficult come up? What happens if you get annoyed or pissed off with the guide? What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
What happens? So it's like really important that you have these very clear boundaries and guidelines with that person. So if anything uncomfortable comes up, you can talk about it. You have the safety to do that. That's really, really important for a good and safe journey with someone else. That's it? All right. I believe that's everything. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining today. I really appreciate it. And if you want to connect with me, I have Insta, YouTube, and my retreat page. All right. I'm going to hang around for a little bit. If you have any questions, we can talk about that. But otherwise, I just wish you an amazing day. Stay safe. Yeah. Enjoy.